The Bucs are loaded and Vegas is taking note. Caesars released their odds to win the NFC title next season. At the top are the reigning NFC champs 49ers with 7-2 odds to repeat. Right behind them, Tommy's Bucs and Stephen A's Cowboys, each with 6-1 odds to win the NFC next year. Ryan Clark still here with us. Stephen A., what team has the best shot at knocking off Jimmy G and the Niners?
I'm going to give it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, and that's a hard thing for me to do because of my love and respect for Drew Brees. But even though he's got Michael Thomas, I'm just looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm like, my God, you don't have to worry about a quarterback throwing 30 interceptions this season. Not only, Ronald Jones can still run the football, obviously. You're looking at the wide receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, as a duo. You can make a legitimate argument that they may be the best in the National Football League, or at least top two. And then you've got not one, not two, but three different tight ends in Gronkowski and O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate. So, you talk about short yardage situations. You can throw two to three tight ends on the field. You talking about, your wide outs, guys playing outside the numbers, and Godwin and Evans and what they can bring to the table. You're Tom Brady, your experience, and you're going to neutralize the amount of turnovers that plagued you and inhibited the productivity of your defense, at least in the first half of the season last year. And all of a sudden, all of these things are things that you don't have to worry about, not to mention the fact that assuming everybody manages to play through this coronavirus situation, you're going to be playing a lot of your games in warm weather, not inclement weather for the most part. All those things. I mean, you're going up against New Orleans. That's going to be in a dome. You'll be in the South at Atlanta. That's in a dome. You're going against Carolina. The weather's lovely down there. I went to school down that way. I'm telling you right now, I love Carolina weather. All those things you take into consideration. It just seems like everything could potentially work for Tampa Bay in this particular situation. Obviously, they could be beat. San Francisco, you still got to give them an edge. You can't ignore New Orleans, obviously, and even in the division. Green Bay, you can't summarily dismiss. Even the Cowboys, who they just drafted, combined with what they have, you can't summarily dismiss. But right now, I look at the Bucs as a threat to everybody, including San Francisco right now, because of the collection of weapons that they have available to them. I'm going to give them the edge over Thomas, Kamara, and Brees in New Orleans.
Bucs are a good pick because they won 7 games last year with a quarterback who handed the other team 112 points. So, if you just take that away and reduce that, they're going to win a couple more games, and they look loaded. They even got a tackle they shouldn't have gotten in the draft and all that. But I'm still taking the Saints above the Bucs and anyone else. The Saints, when you look at the draft they just had, I understand why people aren't buzzing about them, because it's not sexy. They're kind of building for the future, planning. They're going to, this guy's going to be a free agent. They can let that guy go. That'll reduce their cap. Now they can plug in this offensive lineman they just drafted. They draft a linebacker in the 3rd round who a lot of people thought was going to go in the 1st round. They got a tight end who can play, who can really play, who everyone's very high on, who's not even going to have to start right away. Those are not the sexy kind of picks that has everyone going, oh my God, look at the Saints. But did the Saints really need that? If the question is who's improved more, I'll take the Bucs, sure. But who has the best chance to knock off the Niners? The Saints, maybe they didn't have to improve. Maybe if you just replay last year, they knock off the Niners, like any given Sunday. So recall that the Niners, that Jimmy Garoppolo had to make a great play, and Kittle had to make an even better one on that link up at New Orleans to barely beat them in order to have home field and all that. The Saints were right there last year, and I do think they got better. If you ask me, what's the one thing on offense, they could have had a number 2 receiver who's really a legit top-line number 2 receiver. They got it. They signed Emmanuel Sanders. They did it. To go with Michael Thomas, and they have the running back, and they have the quarterback, and now they plugged in on the line, and they plugged in a linebacker, and they have depth at tight end, and they have a coach, and they've been nipping at everyone's heel. The last couple of years, they've had real chances. So I think this year, like last year, like the year before, the Saints at this point of the season, or off season, could actually be said to be the favorites to come out of the NFC. Odds-on favorites.
I was kind of back and forth on this one, and I'm going to go to Saints because I believe the Saints have the better chance of getting home field advantage. And I think that's going to be extremely important in the NFC playoffs. Do I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would eventually evolve and the chemistry comes around to where they might be playing the best toward the end of the season? Maybe so. But initially, the chemistry that both Drew Brees and Sean Payton have together, and you add that with getting Malcolm Jenkins back on the defensive side of the ball, when you're talking about playing against some of these better tight ends and the George Kittles and now the Rob Gronkowskis in Tampa Bay, adding Emmanuel Sanders to this offense that was extremely Michael Thomas heavy in the pass game, and Alvin Kamara coming back seemingly healthy this year because he wasn't last year. I actually had a conversation with him at the national championship. And so you add all of those things with understanding where Drew Brees will be in his career. I think that team starts out better. And if you start out better and you have a better regular season record, you get to host playoff games. And no one wants to go into New Orleans, even though the last 2 years we've seen teams do that. And so for me, initially, it's going to be the New Orleans Saints. And now, by the end of the season, I believe it could be a three-man race between those three teams. But the Saints right now seem more prepared as a team from top to bottom than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be entering the 2020 season.
Ryan, I'm glad you brought that up because, see, I want to make sure that I'm very clear about what I'm saying. I actually believe that the Saints will win the division. I do believe that the Saints will have home field advantage. I'm saying that come playoff time, I expect the Bucs to be the superior team. I think the Saints are who you think they are. They are who we thought they were. And they're going to show up. They're going to produce. They're going to produce in the regular season. Because remember, they might have added Emmanuel Sanders. They might have this cat Traquan Smith as a backup to him and Michael Thomas. And these are familiar targets for Drew Brees. And I get all of that along with Jared Cooks and others. You know, but the bottom line is when I look at New Orleans, I think it'll be easier for them to have that chemistry during the regular season. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.